Well, guess it is working. What do you know? It's working. Wow. That's working pretty well.
Already 40 people have jumped into our lobby. Like, here, wait.
50
Trigger,
people.
triggered
Welcome.
infamous are going live. Holy shit, triggered infamous have been live for like months. It's epic.
I know. We thought we'd never come back to this, but then again we did. And
Here we are. Here we are.
then you thought we wouldn't come back to it, and then again we did.
Now we're here.
So, welcome everybody back to We Are Aquarius. I am sunburnt, although I'm not really that sunburnt now. I look more bronzish now, so I'll just stay right
I'm
here.
just
Does that look good?
flush. I'm flush today.
Yeah.
I'm not even really
You
that
got some
drunk
sun
yet.
on you. You don't look like the vampire I knew you as from long ago.
Yeah, I have gotten a lot more sun. It's been a sunny and rainy in Pennsylvania for the last, couple months.
Dude, today the weather,
Hot.
all sun, nothing at
Chilling.
all, and then 20 minutes later it just starts raining. Just clouds come up and boom, starts raining. I click on the weather again and it says, "Oh, there's going to be rain for now." I'm like, "You didn't know
Surprise.
that. You told me there wasn't." So, yeah, they lied to me.
When you do things at 40% chance,
It didn't even say a chance. It just was nothing. It was just sun. No rain at all
there's
today.
there's always a 40% chance. Dude, the other day I was like just kind of wanting to take a nap, kind of laying my head down, dozing off, and lightning struck in my backyard.
Really?
Oh my gosh, I'd never had lightning so close. I jumped up. I mean, my room that I was laying in is like beside my backyard.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was just the light in your eyes and the sound was just at the same time. It was just instant like it's there. It just made you feel so insignificant and like you're in this moment. There's nothing else you can do about it, kind of feeling. And my
Hmm.
daughter's like, "What was that?" And I was like, "That's what happens when lightning strikes close." I was like,
Yeah.
"It's a different, it's a
Boom.
different."
Just the
Yeah.
shaking of the house right there.
I mean, I do see one branch outside my neighbor's house. Seems like it looked a little cracked, but man, it sounded so much louder than a little crack. I don't know. Could have hit
Hmm.
ground or could have hit. My other neighbor has laundry lines out that are metal. It could have hit that. I don't know. Man, it just
Hmm.
I don't know. Opens your eyes, a bit, Lightning close really kind of wakes you up. You ever you hear
Oh
those
yeah.
stories? People get actually hit by lightning and then they have special abilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
think that works? How do you genuinely think that works?
Well, you just get close to it now. Now I can absorb it, so I can absorb
How
more
do you
energy into
absorb
me.
what? Absorb what?
All the energy. I can take it.
Saying that there's free floating energy of skill floating
Yeah.
around,
I
like
can just take it and use it however I want now.
the skill of learning German could just be floating around me right now,
Yeah.
and if I could absorb it the correct way. I thought maybe it was like a spirit. What if it's like a spirit? What if a
Spirit.
person like absorbed a
Is this
ghost?
spirit standing next to you, tickling your ear with its tongue? Going,
No, I didn't mock your idea. I tried to take it as seriously as I could. Here you are. Well, I mean, like, what if, like, your spirit
Okay.
happens to be like a professional pianist? Mozart happens to be right beside me right now. Gets struck by lightning, Mozart enters my body, and now I have the skill to play piano.
And he like brushes his hand on your head while you're
Was
playing, and
it
you're like,
was it Mozart or
"Oh,
Beethoven who was
my
blind?
cowlick feels a little nicer now. Why is that?" He just keeps spinning, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I know how to play the C note." You're like,
I already know how to play the C. Such an a-hole. Um, who was blind? Who's the blind pianist back in the Renaissance time? Is that Beethoven?
Billy and 4C.
I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. Again, you and I are on two different pages today. It's good to know. Good to know.
The blind kid. Harry, I took care of it. Pretty bird.
Who are these
Pretty
sick people?
bird.
Ding dong.
Oh, it's such a classic. I'm surprised they don't play it all the time on TV still. You
Dude,
know?
the best part about that movie, honestly, was when she just tossed some snow on him and he packed a snowball and just pegged her in the face.
That was like
Great.
the last straw. He was just like, no.
Those are IOUs. They're just as good as money. 125,000. You might want to hang on to that one.
Yeah. Oh man.
Imagine just opening up your briefcase and just finding a bunch of IOU papers and tallied up. They're all accounted for.
They're all kind of.
It's all there.
Yeah, as if they're even gonna bother.
Shitty pieces of paper.
They were just written on receipts, stuff like that. You know, like, where's the money?
You know, I'll tell you, as just because I'm bored,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that the scene where they found out they had the money was a little weak. I thought they could have made a few more funny moments when they found out they actually had all that money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You don't think so? Like when they're on the ice and they're fighting and all that, and the money flies open, it just seems so like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being critical.
They kind of just ran through their part a little too fast.
Yeah,
Like they were. Yeah, maybe a little bit because when they're
because
standing on
they were
the standing
so
porch, you're like,
they were so
here's
angry
for
at each other.
you, here's for you, here's for you, and he's giving 50 hundreds of dollars. You're just giving money to random people, because they're taking
You know what?
presents up to their room.
I think that they couldn't figure out like what line Harry would have said.
Mm-hmm.
What line would have Harry said after that money flew open? Like you would have thought he would have stayed mad at Lloyd even more. Like, you tell me we just drove all the way across Colorado and we had money? Like he couldn't have done that because it was already like put there. They already did all the jokes. Like there was no real joke left after they found the money. It was just like
Yeah.
right to like how they spent the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they could have done something more with that, but
I don't know. That's my only criticism of the movie. That's my only. Everything else I
I'd
just
have
thought
to
was
say
perfect.
the way that they do jokes in that, it was pretty top notch for actually getting that many jokes crammed into the movie. Because you don't even see that with most comedies nowadays. It's a lot of little fluffy pieces, and then they have the punch joke, or they make the joke at certain intervals. Like only certain movies have really done that well. Like the other guys did really well with their joke punchlines, just constantly throwing it in there.
Well,
You know,
Seinfeld was great like that. Seinfeld just knew how to slip one
Seinfeld
in
did
there.
good for a TV series because you have to keep making tons of episodes, and for some lighter material, But for like a movie, throw
Jim Carrey is because he was so out there. He was really the first person to kind of make that like what kind of in comedy,
Mhm.
in my opinion, anyway. I mean, like you knew what was happening in the Three Stooges and stuff like that. You knew someone was going to get hurt. And then with Jim Carrey, it's like
You don't know
he'll get
what's gonna
himself in
happen.
such crazy situations and stuff like that that you're like, well, how would you handle this?
Yeah,
And he just,
he just likes to throw it in your face.
what a lovely room of death you have here.
Yeah, nice
He
Hooters.
takes
The
takes things.
Owls. Yeah.
The pen is
Royal blue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's a real guy,
Yeah.
Even up until the end, it seems like Jim Carrey's like tries to avoid all that woke stuff, and sometimes still even tries to like.
Wait, you said the end. Did he pass away? I don't think he passed away.
No, he didn't pass away. I'm just saying, like up until like a lot of people sell out.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Even
want
with
to?
stuff people talking about the coof and everything, You know, they're trying to say, oh, well, these things happen and I got through it this way. And I think Jamie Foxx made some kind of video recently. I don't even know what the hell he was talking about, but it sounded something like that. I don't know what's going on, but some people can just come out and just, you know, spill the beans and just be honest about stuff, and some people can't, you know.
Well, it's like, remember that one? I watched that one short one time. Like, Tucker Carlson is like telling that one politician, he's like, "How many times, you get the vaccine and all that?" And he's like, "How many times do you?" Tucker's like, "Never." He's like, "Never got that vaccine." Like,
Yeah,
proud to say that at that point. Never got that vaccine.
yeah.
I know tons of people got that vaccine, and every single one of them are always like, "I regret it. Like, it was not necessary."
I know.
I'm not even sure what I put in my body back then.
I mean, it's just with what I see now with them saying like sudden death syndrome happening a year after this vaccine came out. It's like, well, don't the two kind of like
They
meet?
should definitely be looked into.
Like, shouldn't the two correlate? You know, they say correlation and causation aren't the same
Yeah,
thing, but it kind of seems like this could be the moment for that, especially when
yeah,
vaccines
but
have,
everything. I mean, it's
you know,
everything. It's all of it. It's like it's even a two-way street. It's funny because the other day they asked a politician about, how can you just, like, I think it was Mike Pence, how can you just spend so much money on Ukraine, saying Ukraine doesn't have enough tanks, like you're not worried about Americans. He's like, I'm not really worried. He basically said, like, I'm not worried about that, Americans. And you can see all the people getting upset, and it's like, yeah, I understand your point, but then it's like, at the same time, it's like America's already got it pretty good, and
hmm
it's kind of been on the backs of most of the rest of the world in the first place. Maybe not
yeah,
Ukraine, because as I've said before, and I'll say again, they can cancel the show. Ukraine is just a fake country. There's real citizens in it. Real citizens, I don't dispute. Real people who live in Ukraine. But that country was just basically made as a territorial location to be close to Russia. I mean, it's bullshit. It's just a bullshit country. All it is corruption. It's just like a front country. I tell you,
yeah. I don't
I
know
still
enough
believe
about that really.
I still believe original George Bush, not George W. Original George Bush found a way to be able to send. Oh, I can send foreign aid to myself in another country, and
Yeah, because
make a night like.
why did they
I think
have
that's what.
all this stuff with Biden and Ukraine and his
Look,
son
but then the
and
Clintons found out about it, and instead of reporting it, the Clintons like started funneling massive amounts of money into it, foreign aid into Ukraine, into
well,
Ukraine.
how else would you launder money if you're the president or up there? You have to give it to another country.
But it's not even
You can't.
laundering. I mean, now I think it is. Now I think
Well,
it's gone into
that's
laundering.
what I'm trying to say is in the past they would launder the money, right, so that um,
No, in the past he
nobody
just said,
would
I'm
know.
telling you, you just open up a shell company and you get people, someone in the
Well,
government, hey, look,
I'm saying for like
I'm gonna send you
mobsters and
a
stuff.
$500,000. I just want you to send me $60,000 of that 500,000 to this company. It's my company. It's a shell company. You just pocket 60,000.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the
Of, of,
past
of,
with the mafia and stuff, laundering was a thing. But like what you're saying is they moved to companies now, which makes sense because now you can put it in a company and no one's the wiser. You know, but being a president and all that, you can't do certain you can't make there's certain things you cannot do as a president. There's certain things you can do as a president. But having money and gaining money from other countries as a president, I think that's a big no-no. You know, and for them going out there and working with other countries to make this money on the down low, I don't
well,
think any of that
that's
was
what we have
legal.
there. I mean,
I don't think any
I
of
mean,
that was legal. So
you clearly have it that, Biden's family was, and who knows if Biden was the basic money person that was actually funding money to so many other people. Like, it's not all his money,
the kid's a
but
crackhead, and the way he acts and talks and all that, he it looks like he's suffering from some kind of like trauma because he was involved in this dirty dealing stuff, and and or it looks like he just wouldn't give a shit, you know.
I
And
think the I think the fact is he at every chance he does he'll call it. What do I need to do, Dad? What do you want me to say? Should I say the laptop's mine? And the thing is, like they already have it all planned. Yeah, say it's yours. We're gonna let the FBI take it and we'll let it disappear. We own the FBI. Don't
yeah,
forget that,
he's
son.
he's become sort of the pseudo black sheep in a sense to be able to handle whatever business that their family's
Yeah,
doing.
but it's not just him. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of these other kids that were involved in all this kind of stuff, and you keep finding
Mhm.
it out and looking it all up, and it's nonsense. I mean, Republicans are just as guilty, and Democrats, they're all collecting this money off of the American taxpayers. And I agree. I'm for helping out countries like Ukraine become real country. There's obviously, like I said, real citizens. But right now, you have a puppet for a president and all their higher ups. They're all just puppets. They're puppets for what do we want us to do, Biden? What do you want us to do?
Yeah,
And it's
the
like
problem with this is that
are puppets. Zelensky was put into office. He was not elected into office. There's no way. He's put into office and it pisses me off.
yeah,
Zelensky's an
I'd have to
idiot.
look at that. I haven't really looked at their nation and what they do and this and that and the other thing with
But
them,
this is why I've said before. Why do you think Putin doesn't want to have elections and all that? Because he knows if he puts elections out there, guess what candidate will come up? Someone that is United States affiliated. You know what I
hmm
mean? You have to worry about that. Someone that the United States can be like, we can make you very, very rich and powerful.
yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's why I don't trust most of these politicians because I don't really know which country they're getting sort of funded from in a way. Like people all worried about Trump and all that with that, but like I'm more worried about Biden being
okay.
funded by that kind of stuff because it seems like
The-
these people that just have the perfect talking points all the
they
time.
all just follow wherever their money's invested, whether
Yeah,
it be in oil,
wherever
whether
the
it be in
money comes
batteries, whether it
from,
be in solar or whatever it is they choose to do.
and
Nobody's invested in education for our children and all that. That's
I'd
not
have
like
to
an
say
investment.
I'd have to say from like a standpoint of like what would Christ do? Christ said, "Give to Caesar what Caesar's, give to God what's God's." But does this money belong to Caesar? Does this money belong to the Biden family or does it belong to the Ukrainians? Now that he's funding it through them, I would say it belongs to them.
He sent
It's
over $1 billion to Ukraine,
you know,
like a couple $1 billion. I mean, I don't even get it. I doubt the bill. I doubt even our planes that being sent over even count towards that billion. I don't know. It
see
just
the thing
what are
is
you
with
trying?
that
What are we
like
trying to?
here's the thing. You could
What are
have
we trying to do?
here's the thing.
It's just a fake war. It's just so fake.
It's a wasted war. Here's the thing.
It's a waste.
Okay, let's say you got 10 guns, right? And you got you. Now you got 10 guys and each of them has one gun. Who's going to win? You with 10 guns or 10 guys with one gun?
You with 10 guns, probably.
You're okay, you're John Wick enough to be able to pull that off. Cool. But on average, the average Joe, average military guy over there, we're giving one guy 10 guns and they got 10 guys with one gun. They can't last. They can't hold off. It's Russia can go in with a war of attrition
How
and win.
how good is the gun?
It doesn't matter.
Is Russia still winning? We've heard both sides so many times. Who would know anymore?
Honestly, it doesn't matter what goes on. Russia can win if they want to, and it doesn't matter how long and the longer we hold it off and keep helping them out, the more Ukrainians will die in the
I
process.
just don't believe it. I just don't believe any of it. I think this is all a point to get our numbers of heavy machinery down.
I think it's a point to
Less
actually.
planes, less boats,
What I really think it is was a
and
way to get
now
us
China has
involved
a
in the
little bit.
war. It was a way to get us involved in the war because then we just jump back in another world war.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Oh
Why do you
well,
think
I
that
mean we've been
Putin went?
funding
Why do
them
you
and now they're attacking us. The same thing that
look?
Japan did. We were helping out with certain things and Japan decided to attack us. because we were helping out
Yeah, but
with supplies.
Japan was trying to take over all those countries back in the day. Japan was like more expansion than China. They wanted to take over.
With
They took
World
over
War
so many
II.
different islands. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. They
Well,
took over so much territory.
mhm.
They were becoming like they were becoming crazy. They were becoming crazy. I should
Yeah,
look it up.
I'm just saying
I'll
at
look it up.
that time that was like the time when the bankers, and we want to say it was the bankers that were getting funded from both sides, and so it's typically the bankers that do that get money from both sides. It turns into a money game. So what this thing was supposed to do is ignite us to the point that we get involved in a soft war, you know, pseudo Cold War, to the point that as soon as Russia's getting angry that we're funding them and giving them money, then you know some ally of theirs, or they might be
Look,
like, ah,
look,
screw it.
look. You see all the red?
Yeah.
That was all the Japanese territory in 1942.
Wow.
Like, dude, they took over shit ton, and we nuked them, and they fucking fell back to that little island. Crazy.
Man.
And does it look like does China come back and look like, oh, you helped us out? No, they just like, oh, that's our land. We're taking it back. It's ours.
I
It's
guess I
weird.
guess the thing is, like, you know what, I want to say I know a lot about that, but what I do know is that long ago Japan had to defend themselves from China and from other invaders for a very, very long time. They were constantly getting invaded by
Yeah.
some kind of country, and
Japan got Japan
so
got really good on the waters, and they were a military style, with their fighting and all that.
mhm.
And eventually they just decided to group together and started taking over all the islands. And it was working. They took over a lot of those islands. It's like, okay, we're Japan. We're the tough ones of the land. No one's stopping us. And then they breached into China even. No
Mhm.
one's stopping them. And then it's just like, you said, like they even had somewhat control of like guns and all that. I mean, Pearl Harbor was planes. They came in and took over Pearl Harbor. Like they were just going to keep pushing it. The only problem was Pearl Harbor was already established to be American, and American was just this astronomically large, booming country at the time.
Mhm.
And that's what I said before. The last country always wins. Look at Japan now. After you nuked out their two countries, they didn't rebuild. It's not like you go to a city and you say, oh, why don't they just bulldoze that building down and build something new? There's no finances for it. But when you nuke an entire city, all you can do is rebuild on it. So they took, there's no, you know what I mean? They start fresh in a
Yeah.
way.
Well, also
And
they
that's what
they
that's
didn't
what caused them to have a better beginning.
they
And I'm
also
sure the
didn't
people knew that.
they also didn't they were too far out with their planes, and they didn't have, which it sounds weird that they didn't have the tactical
We dropped
understanding.
we dropped the nuclear bomb. Nobody knew.
No, I'm saying with
It
the
wasn't
kamikaze
even like they
planes,
couldn't
like
keep fighting.
what you said, that you didn't understand the reality behind it. I also don't understand the reality behind Japan not understanding that their planes are going to go that fucking far and then come back. So they're going to kamikaze. What does that do? You can't hold the ground if you just blow everything up, because there's nobody there to take over the land. Everybody kamikazes, and then what? Everybody's dead? Well, whoop de fucking do. What'd you do? You didn't do anything. Now Americans are going to come back, repopulate it, and then you didn't do anything. You just killed a bunch of people and
Well,
your own people for
the
no
only,
reason. See, I'm just saying, like when you were saying that this, what's going on with some of the stuff in Russia and Ukraine, I mean, that sounds crazy enough to me. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't
that's
make
like
sense. Why would you do that? Tactically speaking, Japan, for fighting all those previous wars, was very intelligent.
because Russia's on China's side. So Russia's just weakening United States, so China has the better control over everything. But I don't get it. China's weak itself. They're spread so thin and they have no loyalty amongst the people. All they have is a vision.
Yeah,
And
if you
and the
saw some of
people
the videos of people being locked up in China because of the coup, people are going to rebel there, man. And did you see videos of people rebelling in France lately?
Yeah,
This is
France is a
coming to a critical point, man. It, I don't think we're breaking, but I think there's going to be some other countries breaking into civil war,
well. We have our
or some kind
woke
of.
nonsense.
Yeah, but that's not like a whole state and or half the states or anything. It's just like mentality wise, and then people are pretty much. I have to say, I think people are wising up to what's going on with a lot of this stuff. They're not just
Look,
believing everything that you see on TV and just running with it
I'm
because
I'm the
you
same way
know.
when it comes. Look, I'm the same way when it comes to COVID. It taught me something. You know, it's true. You shouldn't visit your grandparents if you have the flu.
Yeah, that's what
It
my
maybe would have
grandma
been
told
obvious
me
before,
for
but
years.
vice
If you got a
versa.
cold, don't come over. And I was like, I totally understand. When I get older, I'm gonna say the same thing to my
Yeah,
grandkids.
you just learn a little bit more, but it's just everything.
You
Like,
know?
dude, I'm in my store, that I work at, and I
Yeah.
clean it obsessively. It's not that I necessarily agree that germs are bad or anything like that, but like you're not gonna get something rare and off from my store. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you don't want some weird rat butt disease, because
well, I'm saying like
you
there's
didn't clean.
a healthy amount of germs, and getting a little sick helps build
Well,
immunity and
yeah,
all that. Like,
obviously, yeah.
I'm all about it, but at the same time, um. Just going back to what I was really trying to the same thing with woke. Look, I'm not a person who's like for the woke all that, but I think the whole movement made me realize a little bit amongst the lines of like you don't need to be cruel to anybody for any reason. People all live their lives. You can tell somebody you're downright wrong. I don't agree with you, but
Hmm.
that still doesn't mean you need to be like mocking them or being cruel to them.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with what you agree with. I don't have to believe what you believe. I don't even have to necessarily play along with what you believe in. But like, I'm not gonna antagonize you. Like, you're free to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just like, look. It's as I said before. As a Christian, I can't believe it. I have my moral beliefs. I have my views. I
Hmm.
have to follow what I believe in.
Yeah.
But as an American, I believe in the freedoms of this country, and I believe that you have the right. I don't believe you have to be a Christian and to be in America, and I don't believe you have to be you know, if you're a man who thinks you're a woman in America, that's the place that should allow it. In all honesty, I hate to say it, but that's what the freedom of America is.
I know that it gets really confusing because every time I hear other people do Christian podcasts and things like that, when they talk about, um, well, we believe in God and all that, and we're in America and freedom and stuff. Well, that's two-way street because if you believe in freedom and you believe in God, then you should also be contradictory of yourself for just saying certain things automatically. You're like, I believe we can do what we want to do. Well, you don't believe in this, though. So you don't really want them to do this thing. But you're saying that they have the freedom to do it. But the thing is, you kind of need to have some of that freedom because if you don't, it'll turn into a tyrannical aspect. And then everybody will just
Right,
rebel and tear it down, anyways. So
and
you
that's what
have
I'm
to.
saying.
So my philosophy for certain things is just because you can doesn't mean you should. You have the option to do great things and also bad things, but you have to weigh those decisions and hopefully you choose the great things and not the bad things. Because, if that's kind of what goes down when people get too tyrannical and tell you what you can and can't do, which is what the woke is literally doing on certain aspects, it literally makes other
Yeah,
people
but
just
I'll
pole
tell you what.
vault the opposite way. And this is where we get our craziness and our tyrannical sides and
I'll tell you what.
our new age Hitlers and stuff. This is how
America
we get it.
caused the whole trans movement. America caused it because you know, as we were growing up, there was too much involvement on like I'm not gonna say sex, like sex. I'm saying
Hmm.
like what is a guy and what is a girl? Oh, this girl, like she's tomboyish, and it's just it got so over the top with who is who, and I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
Saved by the Bell, what's in Tony came in and she wore a leather jacket, and it's like, oh, Tony's a bad girl, she's like the Fonzie, and it got too cliche for characters.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, all of TV tried to create only like maybe 15 different or so characters that you could actually be. You could go to another TV show and you could relate those same characters exactly to other characters in other TV. He's just like Screech, the fucking weird
Yeah.
one, you know. And it gets a little bit too much because a lot of people are like, I don't relate to any of those characters. I want I'm my own person, and it's like it gets so extreme because it's like, well, that person's, the closest person I relate to is female in this TV show, and it's not necessarily that I'm saying that's how people think, but I think that we've all kind of gotten a little out of hand on, like, like what is a man, what is a woman? Okay, well, we all know, like, a man has male genitalia and a woman has female genitalia. That's the difference, man. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're going as far as surgeries, I guess, I mean, if it's possible and people are willing to do it, there's the freedom, but I think that's all experimental, and I think you should reconsider I don't even agree
Yeah.
fake boobs. I mean, I don't even have tattoos, so
Yeah.
you're coming from a guy who's a little bit more play it safe. I don't have piercings, I don't play it, I play it safe. I like to keep myself clean. So it's
Well, that's the
neither
same for
here nor
me too.
there.
That's the same for me too.
Oh,
I guess also probably reading the Bible, it tells you not to mark your body and stuff like that. But I don't know if that's really a huge issue anymore or anything like that. But yeah, but I kind of agree with you on that part there. From a Christian perspective, with moving forward with
well, I
life and
think a health
everything, it's healthy to
a
it's
healthy
healthy
Christian
to
doesn't need to force no sin around him to be healthy. A healthy
yeah.
Christian can be surrounded by sin and still be a healthy Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you choose to do.
Well, it's Jesus said, live in the world, not live of it. So when he meant live in the world, he didn't mean, which some people do, and I guess that's their choice if they want to do it. But be a hermit, go hide in the mountains somewhere and never talk to anybody again. That's not living in the world. That's trying to not be anywhere near anybody, not being a part of anything. It's really about you have to live through this. You know, you can't just expect to hide in a corner and it'll all be over. That's why even the talent thing. When he mentioned the talents, the one guy that kept the talent to himself and never did anything with it, and then gave it back to Jesus, and Jesus, you know,
Yeah,
that
we're
wasn't
also supposed to
that wasn't
not put ourselves in sin. We're not supposed to actively, like,
you. Yeah,
seek
you're
it
not
out, or
supposed to.
be,
You're not supposed
like,
to
you sh-
seek
you
it
should
out.
try to be you should try to put yourself around good people. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't
But the
necessarily
point,
force.
his point was, you can't make a difference if you're hiding in a hole. Like what he did is he went to meet all these people
Well, I'm
that
a
were
firm believer
sinners.
that James
So
says that too.
so he went out to meet all these people. He didn't hide in a hole. So he was telling other people to live by his example. So be out there, be yourself. Don't try to immerse yourself in what they're doing, but don't hide in your closet for the rest of your life hoping that you actually did something, because then you didn't. You know, like what you
Yeah.
told me earlier with some of the people you talked to. I mean, that's exactly what Jesus was talking about.
Well, that's what I always tell people. Everybody loves John 3:16 because, it says believe, and it's like, yeah, I believe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saved. I believe. And, I really do think that believe is such a general, believing means you're following. It means you're devoting. You truly believe it. So, I mean, I feel like we all lack. We all lack. There's no doubt
Mm-hmm.
about it. I've talked to enough people in my life, the strongest of faith and the strongest of people that are of no faith. We all lack to be better human beings. We all wish we could be a little. It seems to be like the universal thing. We all strive to be better people. There's there, but there's anomalies even in that. Some people, like, look to do wrong. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I just
Yeah, I wonder if those are NCPs or NPCs. You know, I wonder if I wonder if that's a part of what the Matrix is. What if they aren't
I
real?
think I, I
They're just
think
here to
they're the
cause
people.
us to do some bad stuff.
No, they're the people we're supposed to actively find and heal. You know, we're supposed to help them see a real light. That's the thing about it. They're the real lost ones.
If you
You know,
can.
a lot of people. Yeah, but anybody with the power. You know, Jesus can. All you do is plant the seed. Jesus is the one who makes it grow. You know, so
Yeah.
you know you just have to know how to plant. That's why I say planting the seed's not easy. It's not just throwing a seed at. It's not, Jesus was real. You know, that's not planting. You have to nurture. You have to how far out. How, you know what seed you have. How far down do you have to plant it? You know,
It's
how much do
even
you have to water it?
it's even the same
How much
with like
sunlight does it need?
it's even the same with some people that don't have any religious believing or beliefs at all or spiritual beliefs at all in any sense. And so you're talking to these people and even people I know that don't want to do any kind of spirituality. They don't want God in any way, kind of
Well,
way. But I end up talking to them in such a way that I let them know that the truth is the right way forward, and they start to see that even without me even mentioning Jesus or God or anything else like
well,
that.
this is the thing. All
I
right, you know why?
that's just kind of the secret. You
I'll
don't
tell
need
you
to
why.
go on a
I'll tell you
religious
exactly
rant
why.
with everybody.
You ready?
Yeah.
What is Jesus? I think
Well,
we had
he's
this conversation once. What is
well. He
Jesus?
he
One
says
word. One
he
word.
he says the
One word.
way.
Okay.
So I was gonna say truth, but you know, he says
Okay.
he's the
Yeah. Yeah.
way.
Yes. Yes. Give me another word. This is what I would say Jesus is. He's love.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is love.
Yeah.
Right. So following
Yeah.
Jesus in a way is like following love. What is the So I'm somewhat of a believer in the idea that a lot of these people, when Jesus judges them, it's like you never believed in me, but you believed in doing love throughout your entire life. You were good to everybody. You never hurt
Mm-hmm.
anybody. You've always tried hard to help people.
Yeah.
Like you're a loving person.
Mm-hmm.
So you have me in your heart. You have love in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about, having love in your heart.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Do unto others as you do unto yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the whole message that he was trying to give off. He is the definition of love. You're supposed to be having love in your heart when you do your things. You
Mm-hmm.
tell somebody something, it's not just because you're saying it's because you have love in your heart when you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of the message. So I feel like, in all honesty, that in the end, you're going to get a lot of these people who are angry, but they believed in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is going to say, you don't have any love in your heart. And they're going to be like, but
Yeah.
I believed in you. I believed in you. And it's like, you never followed me at all. You never
Uh
did
huh.
anything I said. You never believed in me.
Yeah.
And they're
That's
going to be like, no, I believed you. You were the son of God. I believe this. Like, of course you believe I'm the truth. I am the
well.
way, the truth, and the life.
That's what he even
But
said.
you
There
didn't
will be
follow
many
me.
that come to me saying, "Lord, Lord," and he'll say, I don't know who you are."
And you're going to get other people who are going to
You
be
know.
like, yeah, no, I doubted that you're the son of God. you know but like I followed your message. I followed the idea of love. I definitely agreed with your message, but and they're gonna end up having him be like, like, let me show you that you don't know his, you don't know his plan. That's what I mean. You don't know his plan. You think you do. You
Mhm.
want to, but in the long run, we don't. So I think the truth is the best way we can be on this planet is be loving.
Yeah, I know.
Not have.
I even had to say this to a family member. We were talking about some religious thing. I don't remember what the topic was, but it was about getting to heaven or something. And they said, well, and that's all you got to know is if you are you know
Look,
going and seeing Jesus in his church and doing that, then you're gonna get there. I said, you gotta, you know,
the thing is,
he's gonna be saying, how are you treating other people, and that person was like, well, it's a little more than that. And
the
Jesus,
thing is,
the whole
I
message
know.
Jesus had was, how are we treating other people? Isn't
That's
that
what I'm saying. Like I know that you
so?
you would
Isn't
get a
that
lot of churches and pastors who would be like, no, you're just scaring people. That's like almost like a Catholic way of like you have to do good. But Catholics like repent for their sins and all that. That's not how it works either. Because somewhere I don't remember where, but somewhere in the Bible it even says something along the lines of like you don't really get this. Like, he won't come back to you if you've already like apologized to him about it. Like he doesn't can't just keep apologizing for the same thing. You get like one. It's somewhere in there. It might be James, might be Titus. I don't
I'll have
know.
to look at that.
Yeah, it's along those lines. He's like like
You
what
can't keep doing the
I
same thing over and over
you can't just
again,
keep
and
doing, yeah, you can't just, that's the whole point. You can't just
but
keep doing the same sin over and over again.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can repent for it, you can apologize for it, and he'll forgive you, but he doesn't keep forgiving you. He forgives you, and I know that's what I'm saying. Like you're gonna get a lot of pastors and stuff. They're gonna be like, "That's not the message," and it's like, I think that's the point. Like, I think he does keep forgiving you, but it's along the lines of like, are you able to forgive yourself? Are you able to move on? Are you able to, if you're a pervert, you know, and you want to apologize for it, and are you able to the next day stop being a pervert? You know, because here's the thing. I don't think it goes away. If you're a kleptomaniac, if you like to steal, I don't look. There's literally a spider, right? Like on a spider, just right in front of me. If you're a kleptomaniac and you like to steal, I don't think it ever goes away that you like to steal. I don't think like you're like, what, I don't like to steal anymore. I think you just don't want to get caught anymore. You don't, you've weighed the odds. But I
yeah.
think you still, if there was a way to just get whatever you wanted, you'd do it. If you could
I think
steal,
you'd
if
find.
somebody came up to you and be like, "There's no way to get caught," I think you'd still take it.
I think ultimately you kind of find that you, and I guess it gets a little sketchy there, but you kind of go from one addiction to the next, in life,
Yeah,
with doing one thing or another, but then it really determines like what do people think about that? Do they think that that's an addiction? Because I mean, sugar is an addiction, caffeine's an addiction, but we don't think they're addictions. We don't state them as
they
addictions. We
all
don't
they
talk
alter the
about them like
body.
addictions. But,
Eating too much is an addiction.
if you drink, people say it's an addiction. But if you smoke, people don't say it's an addiction. Now, why? What you're both putting things in your
Habit
body
forming.
that you can't, you know, that might
What do you
not
mean
be
if you
good
smoke,
for
it's
you
not an
if you
addiction?
do too much of it. But some people go into, saying this or that. And then I've got people telling me like, "Oh, I'm not a drunk. I don't drink all the time." But those people, they get in accidents. Those people can do really bad things because they're drunks and all that. But then people that smoke all the time, they smoke like my dad did, kill themselves at a young age because they have too much fucking metal in their lungs and they can't breathe. And you just die. I mean, so I mean,
But here's the
like,
thing.
what is
I
the addiction? Like,
All right,
why do we
all right.
argue about these addictions, and
Look,
why are some
I'll
that? Oh,
I'll
go
tell you
ahead.
this. I I get panicky. I get panicky. At least growing up, I always did.
Hmm.
It made me sick a lot. I'm just hyperactive. I've always been hyperactive. I don't think I have ADD, but I'm just hyperactive. Something makes me get sick easily. Getting into alternate realities, kind of, trying different things, it makes reality seem a little bit more calm and simple, and it makes me not so hyperactive or worried about things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like real life is a lot more simple than drug worlds and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I would never want to be on anything all the time or during like work. I wouldn't want to be drunk during work.
Yeah.
That would not be enjoyable to me. Some people it's like they like that. Oh, I'd rather be drunk. I wouldn't want to be anything during work.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be like, oh, if I did a little bit of cocaine during work, I could get so much more work done.
Isn't
Like,
that the opposite? Doesn't it make you kind of dumb?
oh, cocaine will speed you up, but some people
Oh,
will. Some people just all the time,
oh.
50, every 20 minutes. No, 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 get this done. I mean, it's crazy.
Did you see that video of
I
Biden's son doing cocaine while he was at the show?
probably no.
Because he turned around, he went like that real fast. Now, to
I
me, sometimes I do that because I'm trying to clear up my nose. I might do that, but
I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
They're all on cocaine, drug testing.
Yeah.
Notice how we used to have a movement for like drug test all politicians, and then like the movement just stopped. Why is that? Why is
It
that?
just no, it had nothing to
I
do
mean,
with
I thought
President's druggy son. It has
that was
nothing to
gaining
do with that.
momentum. No, I think we should all know what every politician
Yeah.
is taking. I mean, the fact is, there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
if they
money.
have to test you for Olympics and it's just a one-time thing to get a medal, if the president's getting a medal
No,
for being in there for 4 years, they should test him every single day.
if they have to test people
Like
for
they
working
should test
at
him,
like
his family, and all that at least once a month. Because
anywhere, anywhere.
you get a job and they might randomly test you. Why doesn't the president and his family get randomly tested on the job?
You've been picked. Red. You're red.
Right?
Color red. Sorry.
I mean,
Just got to make sure. Part of a routine strategy. But no, isn't it funny how the politicians seem to have no rules to work against them?
I know.
You wrote.
See,
Why
that's the
did
thing. That's the thing
I've
people
already
ask
said
me about. And
we should have the citizen form of government, and that should overlay the politicians, where we can write rules at will amongst a citizens council that gets voted in, and they can write laws against politicians, like term limits can immediately be implemented against politicians, and also drug tests immediately implemented. And I don't know what
yeah,
else, but I
they
guess
should essentially do.
like
You know what? Here's the thing.
they can always create an investigation against any kind of foreign trading, or any kind of trading. And oh, your husband happens to be involved in Microsoft, we like to look into it. You're a politician, we as a citizens council has the right
Yeah.
to look. It's like a fourth established
See,
government,
Brad,
branch
you're
of
coming
government.
to the point of no return where I've already gone with my brigandine groups. We have a thing. We discuss what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, and we discuss what worked in the past and what didn't. And so we constantly revise it. So if they let me in charge, I could keep, revising it to make it more perfect each time so it's more fair. And it'd be great. We just need to do it like that. Because each and every time I could just look at it and be like, "Yep, that didn't
I
work
just
out. That
I
wasn't
just think
fair. Wait a second.
that it's
Why
funny.
is that guy have what is he pulling out of his pocket and why is he stuffing it in his nose? No, no, no. We got to do drug tests for people that bring bags of things in their pockets. And we got to do drug tests for everybody that comes on the ground, looks a little suspicious, you know. If there's any kind of drugs in here, if we're gonna have a drug. They should. Why don't they have a drug sniffing dog on the premise at all times, like they do with
Look,
police officers?
I think that you need a lot of people that
Why
look,
is that not there?
you need police officers, but I think it's at the point now where we have like another branch of, even like, they're not police officers, but like, all right, like the other day I watched this situation where this woman, she apparently got fired from her job because she's a white woman, she approached this black couple, and she was like, "Do you guys live here, like around here?" And she was like, "Well, this lake belongs to the residents," which sounds really stupid. The lake probably does not belong to the residents. It sounds real
Unless it
stupid.
was on their land, and it was a puddle, and then it grew into the lake, and they still
Well,
own the
I don't know.
surrounding land.
I have no clue. They were fishing. I have no clue how big the lake is. Obviously, big enough to probably fish. But I agree that they probably. But the lady ended up calling the police because the point that I'm trying to make is, somewhere she was either A, told, or B, under the assumption of that was her lake. And the other residents that shared it, maybe it was like 20 other people or something. And maybe it was only that section of the lake that she thought. Or maybe it wasn't that big of a lake. It was just right behind it. Maybe the homeowners association maybe even had said at one point in time, like, oh, we stocked this lake, so we don't really, people need to have a fishing permit to be on it or something like that, you know. And she misunderstood it and thought it was like our lake. Who knows? But she's probably not that bright of a person. But, you know, the whole thing is everybody's like making such a big fuss about it. And I'm just thinking, like, it seems to me just like it's an honest mistake. And she called the police, and, you know, you probably didn't need a person with a gun to come out to the situation to be like, you know, what's going on? You probably could have had a person to just be like, well, let's look at this. You know, why do you think that they own you guys own this lake? Like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Why don't I call a few people and find out? You know, I have special beep 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 numbers that get me right into who I need to talk to. Find out what's going on here. Do
Hmm.
you own this lake? Oh, ma'am, I hate to tell you this, but you don't own this lake.
Hmm.
It's in no way, shape, or form yours. I'm not sure if you're being scammed out of money. We can look into that if you are. You know, are you being scammed thinking you're paying $50 for this lake? What's going on here? Why do you think you own this lake? Because you do not. They're free to fish here. There's no crime being committed. And maybe the lady would have just been like, oh, wow, son of a bitch. You know? Well, sorry guys. Not racist at all. Not like, you know, I mean, you'd be annoyed if you thought it was your private lake and you saw somebody fishing on it. Kids, doesn't matter what, you know, kids on your, get the fuck out of here. You know, you're gonna, so and so, you know, likes to fish in this lake, and he's not gonna let you kids, not gonna be happy you kids taking his fish. You know, this is our lake. You know, I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm just saying. You know, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then the woman gets fired. Everybody's like, maybe, you know, she's probably gonna get fired anyway. They finally found an excuse. But I feel like that's bullshit. If she was a good employee or something and she gets fired for calling the police because she thought that she owned a lake that wasn't hers, I mean, she didn't say her lake.
Hmm.
She said all the residents on this strip, and I get it. The lake is like right behind all. It's like their backyard.
Hmm.
Maybe she thought it was property lines. Maybe they're like, "Oh, you own the
Yeah, that's the
property line
thing
of it."
that that's the thing that in the Bible, I don't know where Jesus says anything about community property or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
I think the fact is at that time, everything was so abundant, it didn't matter
it
who was
didn't
taking
matter.
the fish, who was
It's such
getting
a
the
different
grain,
situation.
who was getting the food or the fruits or the meats. I mean, I guess cattle mattered because you'd only have so much cattle and that's only so much meat that you have for your family. Other than that,
If we would,
fruit and vegetables and vegetation and fish and all that stuff was just everywhere. I don't think it mattered, but now
if
the way things are, we got to be careful where we go to get our stuff. Otherwise, we're pissing somebody off because it's their, it's their land, it's their food, it's their
well, you know,
property.
something else really came to my realization the other day, and I know it's not something I didn't always know, but
Hmm.
it made me really think. Like, you have to rethink about it. People can become professionals, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's all like the same. Now, again, this is a very generalization type thinking, but it's just like you get in this idea that it's like, you know, a lot of the main manufacturing companies are like all the same company and stuff like that. They're not like the same equipment. Even if it's not the same company, the same equipment was bought to be made, you know, and it all, it's gonna be the same basically. It's just the same exact shit.
Hmm.
Found the cheap way to make it, you know, whatever the product is, and that's, they're just like rubber ducks. Maybe like 10 different companies make rubber ducks, but if you're buying rubber duck molding, it's probably, you know, from this and that, or this one's used, and, you know, that's what we need to produce rubber ducks. We need 20,000 rubber ducks. You know what I mean? It's all the same difference anymore. You know,
Hmm.
nobody, if you, even if you're making a new rubber duck mold, probably just some jacked art from somebody else. You know, here's a rubber
Yeah.
duck model I can buy online. perfect, so it it it's all like the same stuff. But when you get into these other fields like mechanics, doctors, it starts to get a little bit more like not every mechanic's equal. You can't go to every garage and expect, oh, I need to get my brakes fixed, and all of them will fix your brakes perfectly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people won't retighten the nuts in your tires. Some people won't point out things. Some people will be like, you need to get this fixed right away, and it's not even that big of a deal. Some people won't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Some people completely miss stuff. It's funny how, and it's the same thing with doctors. Like some doctors really genuinely care about their patients, and other doctors just genuinely care about getting paid.
The only here's a joke that I have with people that are doctors, because I've done a lot of mechanical work. What's the difference between a doctor and a mechanic?
But
A doctor is the only one that actually want a differential diagnosis. Mechanics just want it to work. There is no two different ways to make it work. That's kind of the joke. Doctors will be like, well, it's probably something that's going on in his brain. No, it's definitely something in his heart. Where a mechanic would be like, yeah, that wire is loose. That's it. You just
yeah,
fix the wire.
then when you get the wire
You
fixed and
know.
it's like still not fixing the problem, it's like, oh, well,
Well, I'm saying like if you're looking at like actually getting the thing fixed, it could be two completely different things. With a doctor, for a mechanic, it just comes down to one wire, one system. That's all it is. But
I
yeah,
don't know. I've met good doctors and bad doctors. And
but you see what
bad
I'm
doc
saying? Like going to a mechanic, you're not going to two different mechanics to hear two different stories. You just want the one thing fixed. You go to two different doctors to hear two different stories, and you hope one of them is the right one that you're thinking of. Because this is, you know,
I don't get it.
okay. Maybe it's too complicated. Maybe
Too complicated for me. It's
my
too complicated.
complicated joke is just a little too complicated.
I'm not that smart. I
Well,
thought you knew that.
no.
Thought you knew that.
Well, oh well.
Yeah. No, it's like the world is tough,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only gonna get tougher.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing? Like what?
What are we doing anymore, man?
Well, like what? Like I don't. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is like it seemed like 30, 40 years ago we all had the same vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we want to make faster vehicles and get production. We can make bigger businesses and all. Like,
Did we just not dream at all long ago?
but it's
Were our
like
dreams really small?
now that we've really done all that, we've made bigger businesses, and it's not really as good as we'd hope because the
Did we come to
businesses
the end?
were greedy.
And now
The
we're at the
businesses
end.
were
It's
kind of
just
greedy.
there's nothing left to do. That's why everybody
But
lost their mind.
well, I guess what I'm saying is like, where do you go from here? Because I'm not a global warmist or whatever. What are they called?
Uh,
Climate climate activist. But
uh,
like, I mean, I know we're entering into a new cycle. Everything's gonna get
I know climate change exists because I can change my body temperature on demand every time I want to.
flame on.
Ah! You ever see that Venture Brothers cartoon?
Yeah,
The Incredible guy.
he still
The
felt the pain or whatever.
yeah, the one guy that's on fire. Every time they put him in an oxygen chamber, he just lights on fire, and he's like, ah! And so they keep him into one room to generate the power for their facility, and they just keep him on fire, so he keeps creating energy as
Yeah,
just
they're all a little messed up in the Venture Brothers, right? That was you said the Venture Brothers, right?
yeah.
No.
I'm watching the series again. It's so hilarious.
Yeah, the Monarch is such a good, like he had to be written somewhere.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah, he's
just
super
everything.
great. I Later on, I didn't even get to see the other episodes later on. So I'm just starting to watch all the ones that were in 2013
Well,
and 14
well,
now.
you realize there's a few episodes of the Monarch where you realize he's not dumb. He's very smart. He's like business smart and tech smart. Like
Hmm.
he is a supervillain and he knows it. He's
Hmm.
just like so insecure and I mean he picks the manliest like woman and like
I love his doctor girlfriend, his wife eventually, and I mean,
I mean
it's funny. I
he's
gotta
just an
say,
in
Brock Sampson is like my favorite guy.
yeah, Brock Sampson's
He
great.
is just the manliest guy, and there's certain parts that they do in there. They have these sexual innuendos where they're talking about certain.
Yeah, Brock
It's just
I
so
mean,
funny.
you're right. You're right. The show is better than you want to give it credit for because Brock Sampson's in it. It's true. Like he's a character
Yeah,
that's just really well written.
I kind of missed some of the later runs when they took him out and they
I'm
replaced him
not
with
a
Sergeant Hatred. And
I'm not always a huge necromancer guy though. He kind of sometimes annoys me and his daughter. They come sometimes kind of annoy me.
the Necromancer, I want
And
to get good at doing it. And now we're about to go into the other side.
and
I'd love
sometimes
to be able to do
the
that.
two what are the two brothers' names?
Well, it's Hank and Dean.
Yeah, which one's the scaredy cat? Hank?
Uh, Hank is the older one. He's the blonde guy. He's more
Yeah,
adventurous.
so
But
so Dean. Yeah, Dean
Dean is
sometimes Dean just really annoys me. Sometimes Dean I mean
yeah.
Hank annoys me too. They both annoy me. Sometimes their character see that's the risk of writing a character that you know is annoying.
The spoof about it though is they initially made it about the Venture Brothers, and it's not even about the Venture Brothers when it's going forward. It's about Brock and Rusty Venture and what's going on there. And at the very end of the show, they showcase the two kids. Like later on, they made it more about them with the other seasons, but not those earlier ones. But yeah, that's a funny cartoon.
Cause like cause like what's his name? Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force is also an annoying character.
Yeah,
He's
he's
just
still
so
funny
annoying.
though.
He's funny sometimes, but man,
He's
it's like,
funny and annoying. It's just like it's that kind of
gosh, I
annoying
wish I
that
didn't know you. Who else is an annoying character in shows that semi can pull it off, but they're just like, oh gosh.
I think some people thought
I mean, like
Meatwad, but I always liked Meatwad.
Urkel, Urkel.
Steve Urkel. Yeah, I didn't
Did
watch it.
I do that?
Yeah, I couldn't. I just couldn't watch that show with the way he did a good job being that nerdy character, but I mean, he
Alf,
really hammed
Alf,
it up.
Alf is annoying. He's an annoying character.
I liked it when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it recently, so I don't
Yeah,
know
of
if
course
I.
you like him as your kid because he's annoying. That's kids like annoying people.
I think I liked the fact that he ate cats. I don't know why I like that or not, but I was like, he eats cats, mom, but he eats cats. So I don't know why we watched it, but you know, yeah, there were
Yeah.
a lot of TV series that. I mean, I can't say I've seen any new stuff now. I can't say there's any good TV series out now that doesn't try to push too many points and
That's like
get too political and too
good
far out there.
good
Like even the
good
Venture Brothers,
Billies.
the Venture Brothers didn't really go far with politics or any of that stuff. They just
Look, I like shows that just choose to only be one or two seasons. That's what makes me choose to actually rewatch them again later in life. If there's like seven seasons, once I watch it, I'm done. I'm not watching Dexter again. Like I'm
I
not.
saw, I saw that whole thing
You watched it
four
twice,
times.
four times. Like what?
I've
What?
I've only seen the final episode um, just once. The final episode, not the one that you saw, the one that they brought out later, and it was just as disappointing as the one before it. I was just like, okay, they're good at making a series, but then ending it, they just suck. They don't know how to make
Let
it.
him just get caught.
Why? I'm gonna ruin it for you if I tell you. Like, seriously, ruin it.
I don't care.
Uh,
I don't want to spoil it for other people though. They don't really care. I don't
all
know.
right. Well, if you want to see Dexter in the final season, I think it's the ninth season where he's up
Ninth,
in.
ninth. That's where
Is
they
it
went wrong.
is it the ninth season?
I don't know, but
Eighth
ninth.
season? I don't know what it is,
Even
but either way, he's up in he's
once you get to
almost in
seven, you're pushing it.
he's almost in Alaska, and he's about to get caught, and he asks, "Okay, if you're gonna watching this,
Yeah, he's like running. He's like running and
mute
trying to kill
this
people at that point.
mute
It
this
gets
for the
so
next mute this for the next 2 minutes. If you're gonna watch this,
just wave when it's time to unmute it. How about
okay,
that? It makes much more sense.
okay, all right. So I'm gonna say the ending here, but he's about to get caught. His kid is there. His kid's pissed off at him, and he tells his kid to shoot him in the heart. And so his kid shoots him in the heart. And that's
I
it.
don't even know how. When does he get a kid?
His kid, the kid that was born in blood, and finally meets him, comes up and wants to spend time with him,
I
and
don't
he
even
likes
know.
him and all that, and then
Don't forget to wave.
then eventually he's like, "Oh yeah, I hate you, Dad. You know, why don't I kill you?" And then that's kind of what happens. So, all right, it's over. Done spoiling it, but it's been out for what 2-3 years now,
Yeah,
so it's
so I
not
wasn't
really
that
like
worried about it.
super spoiling. But I mean, the previous show with Lumberjack Dexter was just ridiculous. You know, it was just
Dude, I hate the modern world.
what are you gonna go do? Live in the medieval times?
I wish.
Hmm.
I don't really wish that.
Well,
I
you
wish I could
could.
live in the 80s. I wish I could live in the 80s.
The 80s sucked.
Did they though? Did they though? I
Yeah,
think they only sucked because you didn't know what was coming in the 90s. There was
it
just so
was
much anticipation.
it
The
was
80s,
cheap
80s,
soda, bad cars, bad looking cars.
yeah, everything was
Bland. Everything was bland. The 80s was about the most blandest thing ever. Every car is
right,
square. Every house looks
right.
just the dumbest thing ever. Architecture, engineering, every songs, music, everything was just terrible, man. It was the most stale cracker you could ever eat. It was nothing worse than the 80s.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Some
saying.
people
That's what
be
we.
like, "Oh, we got this band out of the 80s. We got that band out of the 80s." Pfft, who cares? Only when they were coming into the 90s did they actually make something worthwhile. The 70s music was great, and as soon as the 70s went to the 80s, everybody's like, "Okay, we're taking a vacation from everything. Style, art,
What about Michael
music,
Jackson?
anything."
What about Michael Jackson?
Yeah, that's like the only thing. And they would just replay that one video over and over again because there was nothing else to watch.
He said, yeah, that's like the only thing.
It was like one Thriller music video, and he had nothing else. He had so many songs that nobody remembers, but
And they
Thriller is the one that
and
they'll remember because
they pretty much had
everything
to like,
else sucked. It
they
was
had to like
terrible.
torture that guy just to make it possible.
They had to torture
You know,
him.
yeah. I mean, Michael Jackson had a shitty life. He
Yeah,
did. He
yeah,
did. Like they forced him to stay awake. They waited. You know, they did all this stuff. They made him train super hard. You
yeah.
know, even me with the Jackson 5.
Yeah, okay, there was some stuff that was all right, but other than that, it was just like look at Wonder Woman 80s or 1984 and the way everybody hated the movie because they tried to like bring new woke lingo to a movie that was in the 80s. The reason they didn't like it is because of just the looks of everything in the 80s and the way everything was in the 80s. It was so bland. It's I don't know, man. I would say you want to
But
be.
that's what paved the way for innovation for the 90s.
Yeah, that's true. But the 80s is so incredibly normie. It's like the standard for normie for everything. 80s is standard normie.
You know, imagine being in high school at that time. Imagine being like
I
just like a
was.
kid growing up early 80s.
Yeah.
Nah, but you weren't really like 12 in early 80s and all that. You
No,
weren't. You
no.
weren't. You weren't. You were just being. You were.
No, but
What are
I'm
you?
just saying. I'm just saying. Like in the '80s,
That's what
everything
I'm
was
saying. Imagine.
the
Imagine like.
'80s because the '70s was the highest pinnacle cutoff point of like rock music and like certain love music and different things that were happening, and
I
then
need another beer.
the '80s just kind of was like, what do we do now? I don't know. Like nothing was really made.
Well, hip hop took a big change in that time too. I'll give it that. There was some
Okay,
decent hip hop early
okay,
'80s.
maybe that. Okay, that was probably one of those higher points there with that. But I'm just saying, like, as far as like going out to do things.
But even hip hop was still early. But that's all because they didn't have the machinery to make it possible.
Okay, breakdancing. That's probably one of the highlights. And skateboarding. Yeah,
Early '80s skateboarding. I don't know. I'd
I
even
think
say
that's
still
about
like
it though. It's just that and the move, that and Thriller.
eight,
Oh, wait, was
'80s.
Thriller
I,
'90s?
I guess no. I guess you're right in the sense that '80s provided all right. So there was early video cameraing.
Mhm.
So like if people were able to like start showing their skills, you could start sending in videos to like things and what I mean, that was very popular. TV loved to make actual contests and stuff. Like send us this in and they'll have people review it and they can put like America's Funniest Home Videos
That
was
was
probably
'90s.
how when was it 90s? I mean,
I think it was late '80s into '90s.
we'll see. I mean, I agree with you. It probably is.
'80s is just the weird vortex of nothingness that I don't remember anything really being in there. Hardly anything. Like the cars they made were all
89.
boxes. Mustangs were just square Ford Escorts with a little bit of a fin on the back end. It- those
Well,
were shitty cars.
they made
They
like more drag stuff then
even
too.
my
I think.
even my
No, that's probably earlier than '80s.
even my newer 2000 Saturn could beat any of those
Even the
80s
housing in the
style
even the housing in the
Mustangs.
'80s was just very classical, like quick brick housing in the
Yeah, it
'80s.
was just very simple.
Row homes and pump them out, and everybody because they had that American dream style idea. Everybody owned an equal. It was very
But
very
it came to that point.
communistic.
Yeah, it came to that point. Everybody's gonna have this square thing, and it just looked terrible. Like cars architecture. I think that's what I'm thinking because I look at that the most. I like to look at good cars, and I like to see them build new good cars. But if everything looks like a damn square, it just looks stupid. I don't know if it's coming from the beatnik thing from way back when, where they told everybody not to be square, and in the '80s they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna be square," and then everything turned into a square. I don't know what it. I don't know what it was, but it was weird. I don't
I
know,
don't know
man.
either.
I think in the '80s too, it was also kind of a tougher time economically speaking, possibly.
So I'm saying it was more communistic. Weren't they taking more taxes and all that, and just
Like
building more houses and
house prices in the '80s was like, I don't know, the price was like 10% more than it is now, or something like that. It was, yeah, it wasn't very good. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't remember much about the '80s. The '90s music, I started liking a whole lot more. '80s music, I didn't really like music from the '80s that much. But the '90s I liked better. Cars I like better. Everything just started to start looking better
yeah,
in the '90s.
'90s music made everything. Because nowadays, even the popular beats that people use are just jacked from old '90s songs.
Yeah, yeah. Are we back in the '80s? Because you're just mentioning it now. It's like the 2020s are gonna be like the '80s. This is just the very bland, blah, kind of years. I don't know. I wonder.
It's safer.
What?
It's just safer. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's very like communistic. Everybody just kind of has the same everything.
Mm-hmm. So you think
It's
it's
just that's the
just
goal.
also safer in that time too?
I think that was the plan.
I guess it's a point too because maybe the '80s is safer. 'Cause then they didn't Reagan tear
Like
down the wall
Carter and all that.
with Berlin Wall and all that, or didn't was that the '80s? I think that was the '80s. I think other countries got some of their freedoms too in the '80s. So wait, how many years ago is it? 20. That's 40 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
halfway from the.
Is there something about the '80s
Yeah.
that you think was amazing
Well,
that you want to talk about?
all
Because I
right.
you got me
So
so distracted here. I
so
rambled a lot.
1942, mind you, was World War II.
Hmm.
And let's be mindful here, because we were talking about that earlier. It's like World War II wasn't just a Germany thing. Japan had different view angles. China was at war with itself, so it kind of stayed out of it.
Hmm.
But like, Russia had its own dictators that were trying to grow strong. Italy had its own dictator trying to plot its way to how can it help have power and leader, you know. And it's weird because it's like a dictator just really does not care about his people.
No.
He would look he would gladly like put up all these hopes and dreams, and it ultimately becomes like the lottery. Maybe his way will be successful, but only the strongest will get there with him, or the lucky ones. If they didn't have to fall into his,
Hmm.
something that were oh, we need to go war here, or like just the other day in China, dude, huge landslide, killed at least 40 some 50 some people.
Wow.
I mean, all you can see it, the video, all their trucks are like driving, and then just all this like dirt, just all
Just sinks
kill
into
'em.
a hole.
Like, well, it's just like this, all the dirt fell down the hill.
Mm.
And a lot of the comments of the people are like, that just didn't ever look safe. Like, how could they, they should have known that that's not the way to do things. It's like, I don't understand it, because that's the thing. Like, yeah, it, I don't know. It's like, I'm not a concrete layer. I don't know the best ways to do concrete,
Well, that's the
you
thing
know?
that happened. Like in Minnesota, they had the bridge collapse, and all the school bus and people died because the bridge collapsed and all that. And they're like, "Oh shit, we should probably make our bridges with reinforced rebar wire in there and other
Well,
reinforcements in there, so that doesn't happen."
well,
And
it's
they're like,
law. It's
"Oh,
it's it's
yeah."
law that creates safety.
Yeah, but it takes
I mean,
it takes a certain amount of deaths and publicity for that to actually turn into a thing. And it's always been like that. Uh, Building standards have always
but
been like that.
that's like the seatbelt though. Is the seatbelt a prevention of death, or is it a restriction of freedom? Do I have to wear is a helmet? Should people have to wear helmets? I feel like it should be less of
Well,
your choice.
for
Look,
kids on a bus, yeah, I think they should have to do that. You know,
I feel like in all honesty, and this is it gets into this real extreme level. It should be up to the insurance company, where you sign off on, if you're in a car accident and we find that you were not wearing the seatbelt, like medical bills will be halved to you. Like, we'll cover half of it, but we're not, if you're riding a motorcycle and we find that you were not wearing a helmet when you get into the car accident, and you survive, or even if you die, like half the medical bills, we're not covering that. That's not fair to us.
hmm
You didn't take extra precautions to protect yourself. It really shouldn't be the police's choice,
I
but the police end up working for what? Why should the police care if you have a seatbelt on?
one
So
thing
it's
I don't
safe.
understand is why do people not want to wear a seatbelt? How is it ever going to restrict you from getting out of the vehicle?
My car beeps if I don't wear my seatbelt. Just obsessively beeps.
But how is it going to prevent you from escaping your vehicle if you had your seatbelt on?
I don't care about escaping my vehicle. Sometimes I just don't want to put my seatbelt on when I only have to go a mile and a half. And I just don't care.
I
I'm not going
understand if
that
you're just
fast
like,
anywhere. I'm not going on any main highways. If somebody hits me, I'm pretty self-aware. I'm in an SUV. You know, if a truck rails into me, I'm probably gonna have seen that truck and he's actually trying to rail into me for some crazy, insane reason. In which case, I'll speed up because I'm faster than the truck, and I'll put my seatbelt on then. I don't think he's gonna T-bone. I don't think I'm gonna like out of surprise. This truck comes out and T-bones me on my back roads.
yeah, well, I
You
mean, that's
know.
how they.
Oh, you could find a deer. I'm not speeding. All right, if I find a deer, I'll safely slow down.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not. I'm
I'm
not gonna
kind
hit
of
a
on
deer just like
the.
I'm not gonna hit a child. I'm not speeding crazy where I'm not in control of my vehicle. So I'm not really always worried about wearing my seatbelt.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
I'm
fall out.
still.
I'm not riding a mail truck where I'm gonna fall out the side of it. But, however, I agree. If somehow I got into a car accident, my brakes didn't work, and I flew off the side of the road because of some freak accident, and I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, the insurance company should be like, "Yeah, we're not paying for that. You didn't wear your seatbelt. You could have maybe survived that,
Hmm.
and if you
Yeah.
didn't, because that's what I mean. Like if you're in your seat and the car's perfectly fine over there, but then they found out you went through the windshield and you fell out and hit your bunch of head on a bunch of rocks down there
Hmm.
because you were going downhill and you broke through. You know, like it's not. How is that your? How's the insurance company's fault to have to pay for all that now? Because you did chose not to wear your seatbelt. I get it. It's like you're taking a risk. I get it. You're taking a
Hmm.
risk. I take risks all the time. I mean, how many laws do we want? How many laws do we want? It shouldn't be
Well,
up to the police. The police shouldn't have that as a law. The insurance company should. You shouldn't even need insurance. You should just need to have enough money to be able to
enough money to buy milk
whatever it is.
wherever it is.
I don't know.
You just said you need to have enough money to buy milk wherever it is.
The the government should have like $1 million on every person. Nobody needs to pay any insurance or anything. There's no there's no insurance companies anymore. The government just has $1 million on every person that exists. And if the person needs that million, oh, I made a boo boo with my car. All right, $20,000. Government pays it out. 1 million. But once you hit a million, yeah, well, then you're just gonna have to either start paying it back yourself, and if you can't, you're going to jail. Probably gonna be jail's gonna be very, very bad
There's gonna be a
in
lot of
this world.
scammers
In
that
the,
take
in
care,
in this world
take
that I
advantage of
have.
that. Driving around stunt double cars and stuff like that. I
Hey,
don't
you
know.
got a million? You still got your whole million? Oh man, yo, we can at least get 20,000 from the government right now. All you gotta do is write in a fake claim that you smashed that car. We'll get 20 G's and we'll fix that back car right back up. They don't even come out and look, man. They just ask for the estimate. I'm a mechanic. I'll say it. The whole engine's bad.
Yeah,
20,000. Fix it.
yeah.
Government
There's
just
always a
doesn't.
workaround, isn't there?
There's always a workaround.
You know the thing is, I wonder if we came here as a way to figure out how to stop doing that. Maybe we're always trying to find a workaround for everything. You know?
Yeah, we're lazy creatures.
And now we have to try to figure out how to do it the right way without being an asshole. You know?
The right way is really hard and
Oh yeah,
annoying
yeah.
because as soon as you start doing the right way, man, all these right things start coming towards you, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
dang. And it's like,
I got too much right stuff on my side.
everything is just so, the pressure. Everybody's,
You know what I've noticed though is thinking more positively, or not just thinking positively, but just being positive in a sense that you just think you can't think the worst things of all these situations or all these people because when you start thinking a little better, about it. It's like other people that you know just start kind of opening up, and then everything, they start not treating you better, but looking at you in a better light than maybe they did before. And yeah, it seems to kind of work, you know?
Called pity. Sorry.
that was
My fault.
that was a good joke. that was perfectly timed too, man.
Fault.
I pity the fool who pities the fool.
I debated so much on saying that, but I thought maybe I should.
Oh man,
I don't
where's
know.
Mr. T when you need him?
Well, you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You know what? You better never have said that.
It's weird. This beer tastes like soap and water, but it tastes good. I don't know why.
Hold on. Hold on.
Hold on.
Ah.
I'm holding. What?
Hold on here. Because what did you just say?
Mr. T.
Yeah.
I
Think
pity the
about that.
fool.
Now think about that, what you just said.
I pity the fool.
No.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's the point.
What's the show called?
The A Team?
Yeah. All right. Hold on. All right. It's taking me forever. All right, so it's 1972, so that's leaving a little early, huh? But it became popular in the 80s.
The A Team?
Yeah.
Okay. The A Team, Thriller, and breakdancing. Those are the only good three things that happened in the 80s.
When did Gilligan's Island? Gilligan's Island's probably so much earlier. It's probably 70s.
That is an 80s show that comes from a 70s theme. At least I think so.
What about the Love Boat? That's even 70s too.
That was such a soap opera. That was only for like, girls. And
First episode date is 1964. Final episode date was 1967 of Gilligan's Island.
67?
Yeah.
But it was in color.
64 and 67 was in color.
What?
I Love Lucy was in color, and that was in well, it was half in black and white, and then it became in color in like 1962, 63.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep
I think it just looks so good now because they're always high definite and stuff.
Oh,
They're always
and
they've been making it.
no, wait. Was Death Wish from the 80s?
I don't know. There's a lot of typing in here. Death Wish?
Yeah, look up Pierce Brosnan, Death Wish. That was, that's probably the 70s.
1974.
Yeah, never mind.
Yep. And you're right. Nothing really did come out in the 80s.
What was famous in the 80s? And the only thing that'll come up is Thriller. That's about it.
I think just they're going to be like satellites because the 80s had all the math people.
The math people. Yeah, that's why they glorified the nerds with Steve Urkel and Shrek. Or Screech, I mean.
Yo, it's so sad. It's so sad because I typed in what was the 80s famous for, and it's just like Space Shuttle Challenger. It's like, all right.
Yeah, the Hubble telescope, right?
Then it says Berlin Wall. It's like, all right, well, we already mentioned that one.
Yep.
And it says Michael Jackson.
Yep, I did say that.
President Ronald Reagan. And then
which
it says the
it's just famous
pop
for
pop
the something.
and it says 1980s were a time of great pop culture, including some of the best movies, music, TV shows. All right, yeah.
What?
When did the Breakfast?
Okay,
When was that?
the Breakfast Club
Breakfast Club. Yeah.
movie.
But I rewatched that the other day, and I was like, man, this movie's not even that great.
It's okay.
It's not even that good.
It's it's
But
it's a
but
it's a
but
it's a good
but Uncle Buck is that good.
it's a feel good movie that kind of like sort of
When
gets
did
you. It's like the
when did
only good teenager. Well, yeah, it's the only good teenager movie that came out at the time.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? But that was already 1987. That's already late 80s. That's like early 90s, basically. It's the same difference. Late 80s was early 90s.
I didn't even know about that movie until like 10 years ago. That my friend
Airplane,
told me about it.
Airplane was the 70s, right?
Yeah. Or
No,
no.
1980s.
Oh, actually, okay.
1980. Ooh,
Ooh. Okay,
ooh.
okay. So the best.
Airplane is
All right,
definitely.
all right. So the best comedy probably came out in the 80s.
Yeah,
Best
you could
comedy,
almost
the
say that.
SNL skits,
Yeah.
the late night stuff. All the best comedy was the 80s. That probably
What's
is.
his name?
Was
What's
Johnny
his name?
Carson in the
Not
80s?
not Steve Martin. What's the other guy's name? Because I can't think of his name from the Naked Gun.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen,
Leslie Nielsen, man, he was funny. Is he
Police
still alive?
Squad. No, he passed away. Um, I
You
think
would
it,
think he'd be in movies still if he was
I
still
think he
alive.
passed away a few years ago. Actually, though, it was
Yeah.
like 4 years ago, I think. But yeah, he was so good. And you know what? He didn't want to do well. He didn't initially do comedy. He did like serious movies back in the
Yeah.
'70s,
It
in the
looks like he
'60s.
would.
You know,
It
and
looks like
then
he would, and then everybody just like keeps laughing at him. They're like, "You're just so serious." He's like, "Well, that's the way I am."
yeah,
It's like what do you should have been on Star Trek. Did he ever do a Star Trek episode?
nah.
No?
Okay. So comedies, Star Trek series.
But Star Trek was earlier, and I would even say the 80s had anything really that good. What was that? What was
Well,
this? What was the
Picard.
80s?
Picard was the wasn't he or was that the '90s? I want to
Picard
say it's
was
the
Deep
'80s.
Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine was
No,
like
no, no, no.
89.
Deep Space Nine is not Picard.
Or no,
That
not
is
not not
that's
Deep Space Nine.
different.
I'm sorry. Next Generation. Next
Next
Generation.
Generation
Sorry.
is Picard, and that was where everybody like split. Where whether you're Star Wars or you're a Star Trekky fan. And I watch the Star Trek stuff. I never really. I mean, I watch the Star Wars movies, but it's just three movies, and that's it. There's not much else to it. I mean, people will be like, "Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
blasphemy now," but I mean,
What
now
what
they have stuff. But
what
back
was the
then, they
80s
didn't have
Star
anything.
Trek though? What was the 80s Star Trek?
Next gen.
No, Next Gen wasn't. Was it that
Yeah,
early?
yeah.
No.
It was. I think it was '80s. If it wasn't, it was '90s. But I think it was just early '80s or late '80s, because I remember watching it as a kid. Because honestly, they didn't have much. They had Channel 18, Channel
80,
24,
87,
Channel
87 to
58,
1994, which sounds
Channel
about right.
10. Dude, literally, when I was a kid, like, we only had like five channels: Channel 10, Channel 12, Channel 24, Channel 58, and 36. And I figured out how to turn my TV on by pressing 1 and 8 at the same time. It worked the same way as the power button did. So I could turn my TV on by pressing two buttons because they could just cross and it would, hot wire the power button on. you know? And we also had a black and white TV. We had a black and white TV and then we turned it over to a color TV from back in the day.
Yeah,
And
because even like
you
even
didn't
like
you didn't have a whole lot of TV
nine,
to watch.
nine,
Sometimes you'd
19,
have that.
1980s was like Joni Loves Chachi and all the offsprings of the Happy Days. And the Happy Days were the Happy Days, and all those other offsprings were like, eh. Laverne Loves Shirley. I mean, I guess you could say the 80s also had
Okay, the Happy Days I like to watch because of the fonts. But
but
it
but
was
the
just
eight
the
but
one thing.
the,
Hey, you do that, and that was,
but the
you
eight
know,
that was 70s though. But
that was me.
the 80s also had why can't I think of his name? Hey,
Ghostbusters.
no, I can't even think of how to like imitate him. Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, yeah, Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
Was that
But more than just
70s?
Mork and Mindy. I mean, the
Was that
80s that
'70s
wake
though?
up, Good Morning America, or what was it? Wake up. What movie did he make? He made a good
He made a
Wake Up
lot of
Vietnam.
movies.
Wake Up Vietnam.
Wake
Um,
Up Vietnam, or
he was a real guy too. Makes you think maybe he was just moving.
yeah. I don't know why we got on this topic of '80s stuff. That's interesting though.
I hated the 80s. I didn't even like Michael Jackson that much.
I didn't like the '80s myself. I was kind of hoping for something to, happen in the '80s, and it was just very boring. I
Yeah.
remember doing a lot of camping and really just comedy
Well, that's what I mean.
skits, small TV
The
series.
80s was before everything was built. You see, that's
Yep.
what I mean. The only thing I wish that this country would do is like stop building new cities or new towns and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Demolish the old stuff that's just like beat up and like rebuild there and stuff like that if you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of like farmlands getting like, oh, we're gonna put a new highway in, and then all of a sudden off the highway we're gonna have a few shops and gas station. Like before you realize it, it's just like a whole town was like living here, and it's like
Yeah,
it's a new
yeah.
town.
And what they even did nearby, in this other city I was in, this guy had a excuse me, he had a huge farmland, and they were like, well, we just want to build a road to go around the city, so it's the highway that goes around the city. They built it right through the guy's farmland. And he had to split up his farmland. They could build it right through it. You couldn't just move it off to the side, and build it a little bit over here so we kind of curve and then we curve this way. Nope, we got to go straight through it. It's like, so now what I'm guessing he's going to do, he's going to sell half of his land off, and it's not going to be farmland. He's going to have to change it
Yeah,
from
it'll be
industrial
like
to,
one exit off for factory, corporate centering.
yeah.
Nice looking office for corporate centering that you're thinking like why do these corporate need so many corporate settings? It's like they need so many people to run these corporations and you think like why?
I know. And you got everybody going to these empty buildings all the time when you can just do all this stuff at home. You don't need these massive buildings anymore for all this corporate stuff. You know what's going to happen,
I
Brad? Like just like with Amazon, people are going to start buying areas to stock up for storage for selling their own personal thing in their own uh what is it? Like storage area. So they're going to have their own little Amazon storage area for their own stuff to ship it out from their place. And so those corporate buildings are all going to get turned into little cubicle things for us to have as our bazaar store to sell it to other people. That's the only way it can work. I mean, it's just not going to work the way it is right now. You got these massive corporations that you're going into and you can just work on your laptop at home and you can work in your underwear. Why do you need to spend that much money on that?
don't know. Everything is just so strange. The way we live is so strange.
Yeah.
Just I'm not gonna get all political, but it's just the way we live
Well, I
is.
mean, it's kind of the case because Jesus talked about it was what was good for people at the time, and he was talking politics, which is the way we live, the way people live. He was talking politics in a grandiose sense as far as like how we can live. You know, what he was basically saying was not dividing the classes. You know, you're just gonna do that shit, aren't you? All right, how do I do that?
What? I'm on the other side of my screen, so it looks like you're just doing nothing.
Well, shove my hand fist up your
Oh.
ass like a puppet, or move your mouth, move your
Oh.
mouth like a puppet. Oh man. Yep. Well, I think we
Yeah.
hit the ceiling. I don't know what the hell we're talking about anymore.
I
That
don't
was
know.
I was trying to make a point. My point was Jesus was talking about how we should live as a people, which just applies beyond politics and just how we should be as people in general. How we do that today and the way other people try to interpret it, they have all these crazy ideas. There's so many other Christian leaders out there that have this massively nausea inducing ideas as far as how we're supposed to be with other people. It blows my mind how far gone you can go with some of this stuff. I don't know. It's like we have to try to understand how we can be in a digital sense. What would Jesus say? How would how would Jesus treat this digital sense with what we have, you know, with communication? What do you think?
Love.
And that was it.
Did you hear that?
No?
Oh, it's crazy. It's the rain from outside, and it's like I hear it slightly, and then I also hear it in my microphone.
It
So
hit
it's
us
like
pretty hard today. I don't know if you had rain earlier.
it's just like echoing
Like I
effect.
like I told you, it just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's been doing that with us lately. Just kind of dropping and then going, like a rain's just peeing anymore. It doesn't like shower for a while. Just,
I
just
know.
like, oh, I gotta go. All right, I'm done.
It just came down so hard.
And
You
it
know,
just pees.
I always thought when I was a kid it was, rain was just angels peeing, you know, they had to relieve themselves.
I always thought it was precipitation, and, like the ocean evaporating.
Well, I like to say
What
it
was
as a joke just so people would, you know, get annoyed.
it? I'm annoyed. I'm very annoyed.
You're always annoyed.
Mission accomplished.
It's annoying that I can
It's
annoy
no,
you so easily.
it, it is annoying, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
Hmm. I
You know they redid
definitely
the
agree.
song "I Don't Want No Scrubs." Scrubs guy can't get in the lift.
I
So
don't want no scrubs.
I was at work the other day, and the 23-year-old kid starts singing. He's like, "No, I don't want no." And I go, "Scrub, Scrub is the guy." He goes, "How do you know that song?" And I was like, "Cause it's like from the '90s." And he's like, "No, it just came out like yesterday or like two
What?
days ago or something." I was like, "Nah, bro, that song has been around since like." And like everybody else is like, "Yeah, no, it's like a remix of the song." He's like, "I never knew it already a song." And he's like, "So I listened to it. Original song is ass." That's what he said. That's what he said.
I only like
I
the
gotta.
newer stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, I've heard even Metallica and these other, rock bands remake other older songs like Pearl Jam. They redid this other song, and I listened to some of the original songs. I'm like, it's not that great. I mean, I can see the appeal to it, but it's not that great. Like the
I
new
just
remake, some of them are good, some are bad. Because I've heard somebody do a remake on Cranberries' "Zombie," when she sings "Zombie, Zombie, Zombie." You know,
I just
there's a
I want
newer
them to
version of it. It's all right, but the original is still the best.
better. I
You
want them
know,
to redo the Mamas and the Papas California Dreamin'.
I don't
All the
remember
leaves
that.
are all the leaves are brown, the skies are
Oh
gray,
yeah, that's a
and the
good song.
skies are gray. I've been for a walk on a winter's day.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't really know the lyrics that well, so I might have messed it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they're always harmonizing, you know.
Are you singing a '70s song?
No, it's 1950s. It's
Oh,
early,
jeez.
early.
Yeah.
It's an
I get.
early one.
It's like everything magnetized away from the '80s. It was all good before, and it started all getting good after. But in the '80s, it's like, yeah,
Well, if you think,
it's not
okay,
much there.
so, but that's what I'm saying. Listen, there's something to that because that's what I'm saying. 1942 was the war.
Yeah.
The 80s was 40 years after it, and now we're entering into 40 years later. 80 years seems to be a very common trend. The war 40 seems to be more because World War One happened like 40 years earlier than World War Two. You know, we're coming in another 40 years from all that stuff, and a lot of stuff happens every 40 years,
Oh,
like because you get into multiple generation
so
changes.
every 80 years.
Yeah,
So every 80 years, something really pops because if we go to war with Russia because of that, it'd be the same as when we went to war with the other guys because we were helping them out. We were just getting the supplies initially. That's all we were going to do. And then we got attacked, and then we did something. So if we still give supplies to these guys, and then we get attacked, then we'll do something. The same thing that happened 40 years ago, or
yeah.
eight, 80 years ago.
So I didn't get to watch the video, but as far as I understand, there was like this big understanding that they found out some American companies were making like torture equipment for China. Should that be legal?
No.
I guess that should not be legal, right? It should be illegal. The torture equipment would be illegal in our country, but not considered illegal in China. So we can make it and then
Well, if we
sell
sell
it
it as
to
dominatrix
China.
equipment, then I guess it's okay, but
I don't know. I'm
not
not sure
sure.
exactly. I'm not sure if that's exactly the right part of the story, but they're just trying to basically saying like there's some American companies that need to be like held accountable for the stuff that they've sent to China.
Hmm.
Like should they be held accountable for doing business with China on things that would be illegal in the United States, but they're not illegal in China, so they don't, you
Well,
know,
it's sort of a gray area with countries crossing things because even like with the Top Gun movie, did you see the second one?
maybe.
I thought it was pretty good, but like in China, they took off his uh, emblem that he had a Taiwan on it and changed the symbol or something like that because China didn't want to show that Taiwan was its own place. You know, they want to see Taiwan as theirs, so they literally erased it out of the movie.
One China. One China.
And even certain games that I get to play on
One
Steam,
China.
right? Uh huh. Whatever. But in certain games I get to play, I look and there's different files. There's an American file and all these other files, and there's a special one for China that has certain different emblems that they can put on their stuff. So they can't show certain logos or emblems, or it's very restricted with what they can see on their games, even just for video games, and it's a little weird.
You think there's any front businesses in Taiwan?
Front businesses, like,
Yeah, like we send financial aid to Taiwan.
no, I don't know, maybe
You think we
anything's.
collect any money? You think we collect any money from there too? Think we
Uh,
collect? You think we collect money from like every country?
I find
We
it
send money.
weird that Taiwan asked the WHO if they were included with the protection and all that, and then they literally got hung up on. I want to say that was a fake video, but it looks kind of
One
real.
China.
I don't know what's
I don't
going
know.
on there, but
I don't know. Taiwan. You'll always be in a country in my heart. However, I don't believe I'm able to go to war for you. You know, I don't know.
see, the problem is we're at such a bursting point at this point, like what you said with the 80 years ago, that any little flicker of fire to any kind of war type of thing, we're all going to war.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if it is China starts invading Taiwan, are we genuinely gonna just look the other way?
Honestly, I don't want to, but it's probably in the best interest without.
I mean, they took over Hong Kong seemingly no problem.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, if we go to war for this, and then the other guys are going to go to war for that, and then the other guys are going to go to war. That's what happens with World War. Somebody went to war, and the other guy's like, well, they're busy doing this thing. Let's go over here and do this because their allies can't help them. And then everybody goes, okay, no shit, let's do it. And then
And what would
everybody
you
just,
what would you do in all honesty if like amongst all these all right, let me start this fresh. So they've gotten a lot of illegal immigrants into our country. We don't even know who. We don't even know, people. It's all going to be about who's spending the money and what. Like, we don't know who's gotten into our country. At this point, we don't really know who's in our country anymore. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure most of the illegal, like the highest, deadliest illegal people that can't, on the FBI's most wanted and all that, I'm sure they're still in our country.
mm-hmm.
Just facial change a little bit of reconstructive this or that if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe tan or bleach your skin, whatever you need to do. You'll be off the radar. No worries. They can fix you up. So, like, because our country's just there's no real security in it anymore. It's just like anybody can kind of come in. So what if we found out of nowhere there's like this overwhelming Nazi population that starts to like rise out? And I mean, they're like, they quickly start bringing in the woke crowd,
Mm.
because the woke crowd's gonna obviously, I guess they're gonna have to follow the communistic because that's their view. Woke crowd is already just, but you find out like it's not just
Well,
that, but
they
like,
have this huge deniability clause that they think that Nazis aren't communists, but they were the national communists. They don't get it. That's the slang for Nazi. That's exactly what that means, which means just a very, very large group of communists. But they're like, no, that was the No, it was just everybody was a commie. They don't seem to get that.
the thing is, in my mind, early communism was just an agreement that the government would be the strongest.
Um,
I know that sounds kind of simple-minded, but you're basically trying to vote in this idea that we don't want somebody to
yeah,
become the most powerful and then start running the show on everybody. I'll build you houses and you can, and then start. We need the government to always be like, no, you can't do this, or you must pay taxes so this can happen, or
yeah.
like
But
that's like the communistic viewpoint. It's like you can't just
but
allow
yeah, that's
free.
that's kind of the point. Communism supports the government to a super heavy-handed degree. To the point that you have an iron-fisted hand, like what Russia
Well,
had, the iron
I mean,
fist with the
that's what
government,
China does. Hey,
and
China's happy you start your own business. You want to start selling, whatever it is that you can make at a good rate, and start selling it, whatever. That's great. You grow bigger and bigger. Hey, that's good for you. Eventually, if you get a little too big, China just basically says, "Well, you do understand we've always owned your company, and now there's going to have to be some things that you're going to have to make sure that we're doing,
mhm.
we would like you to do this, like your red needs to be more color of our red flags, like we want only red flags in your, and it's like, and it's
Yeah,
it's like
and the same thing's starting to
if you're a tech company, it's like you're going to need to be sending all of your data over to us as well.
the same thing's happening here to some degree, even with Elon Musk owning Twitter. The government's like, hey, the government's supposed to have certain says in here, so they're trying to get their claws into him, and I can't say I know his whole deal, but it seems like he's come to that point that we're going to be
But do you
starting to do that kind of thing now, which
but
is sad.
do you believe that we should all be free?
We should,
I mean,
well, yeah, like we were saying earlier, you know, today in our talk, we should have free, but, you know, it's like just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know, you should have certain innate freedoms to do things, but then if you um, go too far with that,
I mean,
you
they
know,
say a
you hurt
well-established
other,
government.
you,
That's the words they use. The well-established government. I mean, that's the point. You need like a government to oversee not just law, but like
well, like large,
new law. You know, new situation, new
yeah,
like you said.
large,
Now we have less land. You know, I mean, most of the places that are open fields and are forests and stuff, they're forced because they're protected. Like you can't touch them. You can't just go build on them. It would
mhm,
require some kind of you know, can't just go live there. It would require some kind of situational knowledge from the government to allow it, or you know,
mhm,
politician has to figure out why how would it benefit our country, our you know, my state. Is it going to give me more taxes? Is it going to be is it going to make people that much happier? But that's what I mean. Everything now is it's all commercial. You know what I mean?
mhm. I don't think. See, that's the thing. People think we're going. You know, there's a possibility of civil war. I don't think that's happening at all because we've become. It's all turned into. Yes, it's idealized, but in the past, in the 40s, people would go out and try to recruit you physically and talk to you and might beat you up if they didn't like what you're
Okay,
saying. We don't beat each other up now. We just verbally attack each other online.
let me ask
We don't
you.
really do that too much. And the thing is, we're so it's pockets of ideals. It's not one whole state is this anymore, or one whole city is this anymore. It's just pockets of
Let me
people
ask you
having
this.
ideals. It's turned into corporation stuff, like the BLM Matter thing, or the, you know, this other group. It's turned into groups that can kind of come and go, and they're
Let me.
not
Let me
based anywhere
would you
specifically.
support? Would you support the funding? And I'm talking. We're probably looking at like, but like for a state, you take a section of the state park and you build like an actual like not real city. You don't tear down all the trees, but
You're just
like
talking about what happened in Oregon
what's that?
or Washington. You know, with
I don't think I am.
the
Because
whole
when
Chaz or Chad zone
no
or
no no no
whatever the
no
hell
no
that
no,
was.
I'm definitely not talking about that. All right,
Okay,
what I'm saying
I
is
thought you were going that way.
I'm saying that you build like basically like a tree fort village, like
You're
trails.
saying if we live like Ewoks?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
or all the above. Like there'd be rope things that go from tree to tree to tree. You know, it's got to be a dense
Yeah.
forest, dense and
Hmm.
strong, tall forest, and you can basically like go up the trees, and they're all everything's safely pinned into the trees, and you know,
Hmm.
and you can go across from tree to tree, and it's just huge.
You zip you zip line this way and that.
I don't maybe there might be zip lines, but then you'd have to have a person at the zip lining at all points in time, and
Well,
probably not
you
as
have two zip lines. One that goes like this, and one goes like this. So when you're going this way, you take this zip line, and it'll pull you that way. You go that way, you take the other zip line, and it'll.
I think you just have to like this. I mean, you can climb up the one area if you want to, or there's plenty of like walk step, like just plenty of bridges that go up, you know, and they keep going up in the trees, and you can just take it up to the tree really high,
Oh, okay.
and you know, like once you're up there, there might be like huts, something like built around the tree where you can like walk around it,
Hmm.
and it's basically like tree forts,
Yeah.
you know, might be a swing,
House tree.
might be a couple like swings, but like lower, you know, like lower swings, like the whole like village,
Hmm.
but it's not like a real village. Just I don't know how dangerous it can be, but wouldn't it be kind of cool? Like
Yeah,
I go
it
on
would
so
be
many
kind of
trails.
dangerous though.
I go on so many trails, but every trail is always like the same. Every once in a while, I'll find things where they're like stumps in the ground that you can hop on, or boards that are kind of nice.
Are you talking about
Sometimes
an
they're just
Imagine thing or?
clean dirt paths that are nice. Sometimes it's gravel. Sometimes it's just nothing, and there's dirt and sticks sticking out, rocks sticking out everywhere. All the places have great views, but I would love to see like one park that's like a little bit more like you can go up in the trees and there's birds up there in the trees because you're up by the leaves more, and it's a little more harmony with the nature.
Hmm.
I want to see some more harmony with the nature,
Yeah,
where you
I
could just
think they
you
should.
could just go you could just go up there and sit up there and up enjoy that angle for so long up in the tree.
Honestly, I think they should do that with some sidewalks and stuff. Break out some of the concrete and start planting some actual perennials every every other block or something like that because it just they complain about the fact that we're doing there's so much concrete everywhere and we don't need that much concrete. Most people can't even use the
But
sidewalks for hardly anything. Almost don't even, nobody really uses sidewalks. They have a bike lane and people don't even use the bike lane. They bike in the road. You know, I'm just saying if you want more nature, find a way, but I know what you're saying. That would be a lot better.
well, I'm
People
just
made
saying like
something like that.
I'd love to have like a play place that's like like all those cool animes and stuff, or cartoons, and you
Hmm.
never see it in real life. Like you think it should exist in real life somewhere. It should be
Yeah, they
that
should
hard to
they
be
should
able
make
to.
more. They should turn those corporate buildings into those kinds of parks. Just tear down all that structure and just
Well,
put
you
in
need
some
trees that have
trees.
probably been alive for like 200 years.
Well, you can
I'm talking
trans.
roto.
Yeah, but you could also transplant the trees. I know it would take some money, but you could do it. And then just put it in the ground. Make sure the dirt's in there. Compact it with a compactor. The thing will be solid within a month or two, and then slowly start building up some stuff. Use a lot of rubber tires so you're not ruining the trees too much. You know, put the rubber tire around the tree branch so it doesn't like rip off the bark too much because that's what kills the tree. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it would just be
Yeah,
really cool to have like a like a real village up in the trees,
yeah,
where you have like a hut and then you can go over, you can like walk off to another hut, and you're pretty high up when you walk across, and it's a little wobbly, but it's like dang, like we're like 60 feet up on these trees,
yeah.
like
That'd be
crazy,
interesting.
crazy. And it's like the trees will hold you. Trees, it's no problem. The trees will, you know, probably will be like a little note, be like one person or two people at a time, please. And
Yeah.
it's very very obviously it'll be safe, but
Unless you fall, then it might not be so safe. You'd have to have a
yeah,
whole bunch of little padding on the bottom when people fall. Kind of
60
balance.
feet out of a tree. I don't think the padding's gonna help.
It'll help.
It'll help help the
It'll
pain
it'll
stay there
help.
so that
It'll
the
help.
instant death. Sorry you didn't instant die. We helped you stay alive. Oh, thank
Uh,
you, thank you, thank you. Please, please shoot me. Please. So much pain in so many locations. You landed on your elbow, knee, other elbow, and then fell right into your shoulder, other shoulder.
and your elbow is somehow grafted into your tooth. I don't know how you managed to do that, but
Yeah, you literally punched yourself in the face on the way
you need
down.
a dentist and a doctor at the same time. Oh, and you got gingivitis on your toe.
You'll never be able to look straight again. You'll always be looking way off to the left after you punch
As
yourself.
soon as somebody talks to you, you're like, uh huh, yeah. Why don't you look at me? I am looking at you. This is the way I look. No, it's not. No, this is the way I fell off a tree.
Should I
I
come around
Did you
to your
think you were a
face?
chipmunk? No, I didn't think I was a chipmunk. I just fell off this giant tree that this
This
dumbass
part.
guy decided that it would be awesome to build 60-foot tall tree houses for me to walk around. And then I decided to do it. And this little kid just runs on by and he's like, wee! And he just puts his arms
Bump,
out and I
bump.
fall over the edge and that
Oh, I
was
made sure
that.
I made sure he didn't fall and die himself, but I also did fall and not
So
die
so the
thanks to the padding at the bottom.
So the kid wanted to save me, so he jumps off too, and that's a whole nother story. But
He
this is
died.
why
He
I'm
died
looking at you on
instantly.
the side of my face, and my nose is pointed this way over here. I'm sorry, but it's a long story, but everybody asks me this all the time, and I get annoyed because I have to answer this question every
Well,
2 minutes of the day.
the good news is you're gonna win the lawsuit and probably make a lot of money. So
Good day, sir. Yeah, that'd be
that
interesting if
park
that.
that park will just be shut down, and then it'll be safest
Hmm.
because like only once a year will they find a body there because somebody snuck in and had to climb up to get the best photos, and then they
Yeah,
died.
there's gonna be so many raccoons in that community.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. The raccoons were already living up there.
Yeah,
When they were crossing the bridge, they realized they were surrounded by raccoons.
yep. The raccoons all ended up with rabies and everybody. And there's where you get our zombie apocalypse from, which I don't believe will ever happen. But if it does, well, that's gonna suck. You know, not gonna be fun. Yeah, it's funny how everybody believes in the zombie apocalypse, but even in the TV series Supernatural, you've seen it, right?
Some of it,
Yeah,
like
God at the end
four
of
episodes.
Supernatural is like, fine, you wanted zombies, I'll give you zombies. He wasn't gonna do it because he didn't. He thought it was a stupid idea, anyways.
I'm more worried about real vampires.
Yeah, I think that could be more of a real thing, or werewolves.
Vamp
What was it?
Vampires are werewolves. That's the thing. They just when they're vicious and angry, that you can't tell the difference with their
Mm,
capes and
I'm not
coming
sure
off
that's
fast.
the case, but well,
It's all the same. It's all the same. They're beasts. They're ravenous beasts. That's what they
yeah,
turn. Remember the turn. Alucard turns into wolf.
yeah.
That's what they are. It's like the wolf. You know.
You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe they're just shapeshifters.
That's what I'm
But
saying. They're
then
just
again,
shapes.
the ancient texts describe those old gods and certain angels as shapeshifters. So what if vampires, like some people think, are really just fallen angels, and now they're
That's what I'm saying.
shapeshifters and they do
They
weird
are. That's what
weird
they are.
stuff. You know?
That's what they are. Someone just the other day made a video where they showed Epstein and then Andrew Jackson on a $20 bill. Turns out, damn right, they do look exactly the same.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You know, I looked at a picture of Caesar and my face, and we got the same face. What do you know?
Well, there you
I
go.
mean, it just makes sense.
I feel like you're either A, mocking me, or B, super duper conceited.
I'm a little
because
bit conceited right now,
because
but,
I saw a
but
picture of
I feel pretty good, you
Zeus's
know.
face. Zeus's face. I put Zeus's face and I lined it up and it just happened to be the same.
I know.
Different
Just
hair,
it's
but
a weird coincidence, man. But these things happen. You know. Well,
it
I don't know,
maybe
man. Should we wrap it up here? And
I wrapped it up like an hour ago.
oh, geez, I've been filming this whole time. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to We Are Aquarius. This was just a kind of
records.
fun night. We talked about the craptacular '80s and vampires. And what else did we talk about? Um,
The
oh, that
80s had so many cool computer things and all that. Floppy disks,
yeah, floppy disks. Do you do you still have some floppy disks left?
for sure.
You do?
Oh yeah.
I bought one of those. I
I got to. If I don't know how I would have lost. I lose all the cool stuff. It's like mice gnomes come in my house and steal all the good stuff. Where would I
Jeez.
have thrown those out?
Do you still have some CDs left? I got some of those rewritable CDs
Oh, for sure. I got tons of CDs.
that I could write some CDs on.
I
You
don't know
know,
where my floppy disks are. I'll have to look now. I know I got some, but
I
you're right. I need to clean my basement. When I moved everything, I just put everything back in. It's like some of this stuff, dude. My Game Genie is literally still like in one of my like regular things to just pull out and Super Nintendo Game Genie.
oh man,
It's like it has nothing. Like I just never moved anything out from
I
it.
never had it
Then
for that. I had it for Nintendo though, but I never had the Game Genie for Super Nintendo.
I don't even own a Super Nintendo. Just have the Game Genie
Give it to me. I'll use it.
for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
All right.
Just come pick it up.
You come my way this time. I got.
Most expensive. I got the Game Genie for you, man. I'm not gonna drive the Game Genie over to you.
How many times
I'll
have I
like it.
come out to see your ass?
I
You're gonna
know.
come to see mine.
So much further.
Further.
I should just see if there's a cheap plane ticket. I
Yeah.
bet. I bet there's like local airports.
Yeah. There might even be some cheap train tickets too. There's a train nearby. So,
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
yeah.
Just talking it up, it's not gonna be fun.
What are you
It's
talking
always
about?
like perverts that drive the train. Every time I see a movie, there's always like a pervert that like comes in.
I've never
Every
seen
movie,
anything weird on
every movie,
movies with
every
trains.
movie, every movie. You what? Every movie with a train, there's always some pervert.
The only thing I see with people on a train is most of them die, or they run to the next car. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes they're sitting there talking and enjoying some kind of meal at the little, you know, bar area. But most of the time, they're running for their life.
I should look at how much a train. How much is it a train? Look that up.
I don't think it's that much. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming by. We're Aquarius. You are not. I mean, you can be, but if you subscribe, well, you don't even have to do it. But it would be nice if you did. We'll see you next episode. We'll have something a little more professional planned out, or purposeful, or something with a P word, because you got a P word on your shirt. Philadelphia. Yeah, we'll have something more Philadelphia for you next time. Thanks for coming, guy. Thanks for coming by, guys. See you later.
All right. Let's listen.